So last week we did the energy body anatomy, specifically the chakra system and the meridian system. And so we are right in the middle of our series on energy anatomy. We went through the lower mind, we went through, and then we started the energy. I'll just plow straight on, I think, because this lesson, we are halfway through the energy body anatomy. So we did the chakra system and the meridian system. This week we're going to finish it off and do the free flow system, the kundalini system, and the karmic system. And that should do for the energy body. And then next week is going to be the higher mind. I will crack on. Let me share the 3D model with you again. Right then, so let me just remind you what we did last week before I get into the free flow system. Chakra system, meridian system. So this is what we focused on in the energy body last time. The chakra system and the meridian system. And just to remind you very briefly that energy comes in, obviously we went through it in great detail, so I'm not going to do that now, but energy comes in through the chakra openings. And it gets separated out into these frequencies, separated frequencies, which is the separated colors of the chakra system. Because each color, each chakra processes a different frequency of subtle energy, of golden energy. Golden energy is coming in. Colors are separated out from that. And then it's fed into the chakra manifold, which is that brownish, golden brown manifold, which runs all the way down the chakras. So that's where the energy is separated out into. And then from there, it goes into various places. And last week, we talked about how it goes into the meridian system, and that is at that junction there. So separated frequencies goes into the meridian system, goes into that central meridian there. And then from there, it goes out through to the other meridians and then out to the body, basically. And those separated frequencies are needed for life to happen, really, to keep the material body alive. That subtle energy, that flow of subtle energy is needed for the cells of the material body. And then that gets delivered through the lower mind circulation system, from the meridians into the lower mind circulation system. So that's just a reminder. And then into the material body. So that was last week. So now let's talk about another system, the free flow system. Now, actually one last little thing about the meridian system, because it's relevant. These vessels of the meridian system are one-way vessels. They can only go in one direction, a bit like veins and arteries. Veins and arteries, blood can only go in one direction. That's why we have valves in the arteries to stop the backflow of blood. Meridians are a little bit like that. That energy can only go one direction. There's only one purpose for that energy. It's to get delivered to the cells for the Krebs cycle, the chemical reaction in the cells. Right, so now let's talk about the free flow system, because that's very different. So the free flow system. Now I'm going to take off the meridian system so you can see better. I'm also going to take off the chakra system just for the moment. So this is the free flow system. And as you can see, the chakra cords are part of the free flow system. I'm going to look at it in detail, don't worry, but as an overview, and it might be a bit faint on your screen, but the free flow system is really the system of vessels inside the energy body there. And they're big vessels. So you can see that one coming down the arm there. It's a big vessel. Compared to the meridians, it's a big, wide vessel. And there's another one coming down the other arm. And there's a big vessel coming down the spine. Hopefully you can see that coming down the spine there. Now I'm going to take the chakra cords off for a minute, just so it doesn't complicate it. But we'll come back to the chakra cords, don't worry. So then you can see better now. You can see the free flow system. So you've got this big vessel coming down the spine, two vessels coming down the arms, two vessels coming down the legs, and then the spinal vessel goes up to the top and culminates in this little plate thing, which is actually at the top of the head. So let me just put on the material body so that you can see or get a reference, or some of the material body. Hi Jules, can't see you, but good morning, hello.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
No worries. Right, and so we are talking about, you were here last week, Jules, weren't you? So you know we did the chakra system and the meridian system. So now we're carrying on with the energy body, and we're going to do the free flow system, the Kundalini system, and the karmic system. So here we are looking at the free flow system, but I have turned on the material body so we can get some references as to where these vessels are running. And I haven't explained the purpose yet. I'm just showing you the anatomy of it first, then we're going to talk about the purpose. So let me take the skeleton off there, because that's kind of, there we go, that's messing around. So as you can see, the free flow system, these blue system of vessels, let me just take off the material body just to remind, there you go. So the free flow system, these system of vessels and storage areas in the energy body. And as you can see, it runs down the center of each arm. It goes down the spine, that big vessel there coming all the way up and down the spine. And then these two coming down each leg, all the way down to the bottom of the feet. Then in the arms, it comes all the way down to the hands. And at the top, I showed you that little plate a minute ago. That is right there, that plate. And we'll talk about its purpose in a minute, or the lack of knowledge of its purpose. But it's there, and that's what gives a lot of energy sensations on top of the scalp. Sometimes you get a lot of tingling when you get a lot of energy around that area, and it's coming from that plate. Likewise, the energy that flows around the free flow system is the one that you feel. When you feel energy flow and movements in the body, it's going around the free flow system. So let me just turn off the material body now. So these vessels are bi-directional. So as opposed to only flowing in one direction like the meridians, the free flow system, energy can flow in either direction and can go pretty much anywhere. So this is like a framework of large vessels that flows around the energy body, and certain types of energy can go anywhere around the body using this system. And this is where you feel energy moving around the body. And if you've had so when, I know all of you had a Kundalini awakening, but this is just an example that sometimes you feel those rushes going up the spine in a Kundalini awakening. We'll talk about the Kundalini system in a minute, but sometimes you feel those massive rushes of energy up the spine. Well, that's actually in the free flow system that you feel that energy. It's not in the Kundalini system. The Kundalini system activates that flow of energy, but it's in the free flow system that you feel those big rushes of energy. And that big vessel going up the spine is where you feel that flowing up and down sometimes. So what is the purpose of the free flow system? Well, it serves as a framework for energy to move freely around the body and get delivered to wherever it needs to go. Whereas the meridian system is a system of vessels which delivers separated frequencies into every cell of the material body for a specific purpose, the Krebs cycle. The free flow system, on the other hand, is just a framework where energy can move about everywhere, and it's very much linked into the immune system as well. So I think in the coming decades, there's going to be a lot of new science coming out about how our immune system actually works and our healing process in the body. Because healing energy is one of those things that can move around the free flow system. And I'm going to run through the process of healing energy in a bit. So let me just put the chakra cords back on. Actually, no, before I do that, I'll talk about these storage areas. As you can see, there are some storage areas here. And we've talked about storage areas quite a lot before, especially when we were doing that self-healing, energy healing technique, where we would, on the in-breath, we would gather energy in the solar plexus storage and then add a layer of programming onto it and then send it around the body to do a healing job. So there is these big storage areas, and there's one in the solar plexus area there. There's one in the heart area there. And there's one small one in the throat area there. Now this is the biggest one in the solar plexus area, and then the heart. Now if you've ever had a what we call a heart burst, you'll know what I mean. Sometimes when you can intensify, you can use the heart storage area to actually direct energy, and you can do it in these bursts sometimes, and sometimes it happens naturally, but you can do it consciously as well. So if you can gather energy in the heart area, and then it suddenly bursts out, and you can direct it down your arms if you want, for example, if you're doing hands healing. The storage area in the throat, I'm yet to really understand, to be honest, what its purpose is, although I have a feeling it's something to do with speaking and something to do with the throat chakra. But why have we got storage areas? Well, the energy body needs a complete a supply of subtle energy in case that you need to shut your chakras, basically. So the chakras have little doors on them, and you can actually close them to the outside. And this happens naturally and unconsciously, but it's a protection thing. It's protection from the outside, harmful stuff going on outside in magnetic fields or electromagnetic radiation or whatever it is. The chakras can actually close down momentarily. And so the energy body needs a supply of subtle energy in these storage areas. And, it's not far stretch, really, if you look at our anatomy, because, our lungs, you could say, is a storage area for air. And our bladder is a storage area for water, you could say. So there's not much, it's similar to a lot of other storage areas that we have. Now, if you notice, I only noticed this well after I learnt about the thyroid gland, but if you notice, the butterfly shape of these storage areas is actually the same shape as the thyroid gland. And I don't know why that is exactly, apart from certain shapes and symmetry and patterns are repeated throughout the body. Okay, so now let me put these chakra cords on. So the chakra cords, someone trying to get in. So the chakra cords, now as we know well already now, the chakra cords are the cords that connect us to other people. And these evolved millions of years ago when we first started transferring energy through the collective mind. These are tubes that run through the collective mind, aren't they? Chakra cords. And transfer energy back and forth between people. Different types of energy. And, the two main types of energy that we talk about in this course is emotional energy and healing energy. So emotional energy gets into these chakra cords and gets transferred to other people to activate their emotional responses. It's like a shared emotion, really. It's like an emotional communication between people. And also healing energy can escape from the energy body through these chakra cords into other people as well. And that also evolved as an unconscious process. Now you can actually hijack this system and use it consciously. And that's what energy healing is. We'll talk about that in a second. Now let's talk about the connection into the lower mind circulation system. Because if you remember, the meridian system is connected into the lower mind circulation system to deliver separated frequencies into every cell of the material body, because the lower mind circulation system is an overlay to the lymphatic system in the material body. The lymphatic system is connected into every cell of the material body. But the free flow system is also connected to the lower mind circulation system, and it also connects at those lymph nodes. So let me put on the lower mind. Now, by the way, I want to say that it's going to get a little bit complex. And I want to say that the complex bits, I'm not going to put in any quizzes or anything. So a lot of this is just for general interest to see roughly how it works, okay? Because it does take quite a few goes of going through this before it really sort of sinks in. If it's the first time you're seeing it, it's going to take quite a bit of probably going through it. So don't worry too much, is what I'm saying. I'm not going to pile a massively complex quiz on everybody. So I've just put the lower mind framework on here, and the lower mind framework, as you can see, has this central ring vessel, as we've already talked about a few weeks ago. And it also has an overlay to the lymphatic system, which is the little vessels and these lymph nodes here. But this is an overlay to the lymphatic system. Now, the free flow system is also connected in to those lymph nodes. I haven't put the connections on this diagram. It's all getting a bit too complicated, to be honest, to draw for the moment. But the free flow system can deliver stuff to the material body. That's what the point here is. So healing energy can go around the free flow system, and it can find its way into the lower mind and then into the material body through the lower mind circulation system. So that's very important when it comes to healing energy. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to trace some healing energy from start to finish through these systems so that you can see what's actually happening when we are using healing energy in the body. Someone got a question? Yeah, no, it's not a daft question at all. And it's the same with the root chakra as well. The root chakra only has one opening facing down. And also the crown chakra has one opening facing up. So it is actually only there's only four chakras, the emotion chakras, which have a double opening. And to try and answer your question, I don't know the full answer, to be honest with you. I mean, I kind of know why the brow chakra would be forward facing, because the brow chakra is located at the pituitary gland, and that is just behind the eyes. And it's to do with, you could say it's to do with perception or seeing. We are forward, our eyes are forward facing, aren't they? So it kind of makes sense that the brow chakra only comes forward. But the other two, I suppose, the answer for the crown chakra and the root chakra, actually, the answer here is because of the magnetic field systems which surround the human body. So if you think about the magnetic field that is part of the aura, it runs in this direction. Like, can you see what I'm doing with my hands? It goes up like that, and then round and like that. It's like the magnetic field of the planet, or
like the two poles.
Yes, two poles, and then you get this shape of magnetic field, and the top and the bottom are sort of like energy guides, if you know what I mean. And energy, it's easier for energy to go in the north and south way, basically. So you can see why the crown, the top one and the bottom one, kind of evolved in that way, that there's one facing up, one facing down. It fits with that magnetic field line, if you like. I'm sure there's more reasons, but that's a start anyway. So we are going to trace some healing energy right from start. And there are two major differences when we're tracing healing energy. The first one is it subconscious process, and the second one, is it a conscious process? So I'm going to talk about the subconscious one first of all, and the subconscious one is just the normal healing part. It's just the normal healing mechanisms of the body. It just hasn't been detected by science yet. So you could say it's not, well, it depends what you call energy healing, really, but what I'm going to go through now is just a normal healing mechanism of the body using the lower mind. So energy comes in. Let's put the chakras back on while we're at it. So the chakras are on now. So energy comes in, golden energy comes in through the chakras, through the chakra openings, gets separated out into separated frequencies and gets put into this chakra manifold here. And then the free flow system actually draws from this chakra manifold. So separated frequencies also go into the chakra, the free flow system here. So in the healing response of the body, what happens is that the guna here, which is this one here, draws separated frequencies from the free flow system, and then it programs subtle energy. It programs that energy into healing energy. Then it delivers it into the lower mind circulation system. So this line here, that goes into the central ring vessel there. So that guna is producing healing energy, sending it into the central ring vessel, and then from there, it can go into the lower mind circulation system and go anywhere in the body. And then it gets delivered directly to the material body cells, just straight from the lower mind circulation system. That's a completely subconscious process. And this is magnetic enzymes we're talking about. Healing energy, magnetic enzymes. This is what science is going to find out at some point. That there is a whole part of our healing process which is not known by science. And it's very much linked, by the way, to the placebo effect. So the placebo effect is very well known already. And all sorts of medical trials have to take into account the placebo effect. But the placebo effect itself is a natural healing response of the body, which they can't explain. That's what the placebo effect is. And the placebo effect is the body's own natural energy healing mechanisms at work. So a lot of our research projects are actually going to be investigating the placebo effect, because that's what this is that I'm just describing here. So that's a completely subconscious process, right? Now, the next one I want to go through is the conscious process, because this is slightly different. So still involving the lower mind here, because we're going to do this again next week, and we're going to use the higher mind, because the higher mind can also produce healing energy. But anyway, that's another story for next week. So if we want to use the healing mechanisms of the body consciously, which is what energy healing is, using the natural, that definition already exists out there in the world of energy healing, doesn't it? Using the body's natural healing mechanisms with conscious intent. So what happens here is that there is an intention process in the lower mind. So I'm not going to go on. There we go. There's the overlay to the brain. So the overlay to the brain, the cortex, the cerebral cortex, thinks. That's where the intention process is happening. So you form an intention to produce healing energy. That's the thinking part in here. Okay, I'll take that off now. That activates the guna, the lower mind guna, in the same way. So separated frequencies come from the free flow system here. And that guna programs that healing energy with your conscious intent. And the better the conscious intent, the better the programming. Well, we've talked about that, haven't we? The detail of the intention matters to the level of programming. Now, those magnetic enzymes or healing energy still goes through this tube here into the lower mind central ring vessel. But this time, something different happens. It goes back into the free flow system. So it circulates around that central ring vessel, and then it goes into the free flow system at the chakras. Now, I'm going to turn this chakra system off because it's a bit confusing. Do you see inside there? That's the connection to the chakras from the lower mind there. So from this ring vessel there, connections into the chakra. From there, it can overflow into the free flow system. And then that healing energy goes all the way around the free flow system. And this is what we can direct consciously. When you direct energy or healing energy around your body, down your arms, up and down your legs, wherever you want it to, this is what is happening. It's going into the free flow system from there, from all of the chakras, by the way. There's an entry route through all of those chakra connections into the free flow system. And then you can direct it wherever you want. Now, from there, it can actually go back into the lower mind circulation system at the lymph nodes, if you're directing it into your own body. Or you can direct it to other people, because from there, it can actually go out of the chakra cords. So I'll put them back on. Once that healing energy is inside the free flow system, it can be directed out of the chakra cords and into somebody else. And then it's the same thing. It goes into their free flow system and then goes into their lower mind circulation system and then goes into their material body cells and does a healing job. So imagine that healing energy has got quite a path to follow, hasn't it? To get from one person to another. That's why it needs all that programming. If we're doing this consciously, we need to give it instructions. So we're going to talk about that in the next energy healing lesson, but it's got to get from A to B, and it's got quite a complex path to get through, and you program it with various instructions. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about, I think, for the free flow system is something I touched on last week, and that is a question that often happens or is asked about chakras and the diseases and ill health that often happen around chakras that are blocked. Because, if you have a long-term blockage in the throat chakra, quite often you get problems with the thyroid gland. If you have a long-term blockage in the heart chakra, quite often you get heart problems, and so on. So there are definitely ill health problems that happen around blocked chakras. Now, why is that? Very important for us to know that. Now, the ill health happens because of a lack of meridian energy flow. Because if the cells don't get meridian energy flow, they're going to start dying. Because they need that flow of separated frequencies as part of the Krebs cycle. However, it's slightly more complex than just the meridian system. Because the meridians, they get their energy from the chakras, and it goes straight into the chakra manifold and into the meridians, and then it gets delivered to a place which is quite far away from that chakra. So that's not the full story. Now, what happens is that you get overflow, you get emotional energy overflow, negative emotional energy overflow from the chakras around the area of the chakra, and it goes into the free flow system, starts blocking up the free flow system. And then the free flow system, where it's connected into the lower circulation system, that starts getting blocked up. So it's going from the chakra into the free flow system and into the lower circulation system locally around that chakra. And then that stops or slows up the meridian energy flow, because it's using the same system to deliver energy. So in true anatomy and physiology fashion, it gets a bit complicated, doesn't it? But I think it's important for us to realize, because when somebody has a chakra blockage, a long-term one, this is something maybe we should put on our list to treat, to remove the negative energy blockages around that chakra in the free flow system and the lower mind circulation system, basically. Okay, I think I'm there for the free flow system. Any questions about that? So I think the most important parts to that to remember is the basic function of the free flow system, the fact that it's large vessels that you can move energy around, and you can move energy into chakra cords to other people. And there's a conscious route and an unconscious route. And in energy healing, we use the conscious route, and we can direct healing energy around the body using the free flow system. Okay, let's move on then to the Kundalini system, which is one of the most fascinating things in existence, I'd probably say. Right, let me put some labels on as well for this one. So we have talked about the Kundalini system, haven't we? A fair amount. And in the lesson on reincarnation, we did go through the whole Kundalini system as well. So a lot of this is a reminder, but it's good to see it in person, isn't it? It's good to see it in 3D so that you can see what things actually look like. So let's start with the purpose of the Kundalini system. So I'm not going to go through the whole a journey of the source of the universe here, because I've said that a few times, but just to remind you that the source of the universe goes through a journey of life, doesn't it? It creates the universe for a purpose, and that is to know itself. It creates the universe of form with a separation to it, a duality. That's what creates all the physical world of form that is around us. It does that for a purpose, so that it can know itself. And the journey of life, and the journey of evolution, and the journey of spiritual evolution of the soul, reincarnating again and again and again, learning as it goes, going through spiritual evolution, and culminating in self-realization. That is the journey of the universe to back home. That's the journey of the universe knowing itself. But there has to be a way for the universe to do that in the physical world of form. Because everything, we can talk about it in a broader respect, but how does it happen in actuality? How does it happen in detail? How does it happen in energy? How does it happen in matter? That's what physiology is. And the journey of life and evolution and genetics and biology and the whole thing, that's how it happens. And the Kundalini system is how self-realization happens. The Kundalini system is the physiological side of self-realization. And people don't need to know this to go through self-realization, because self-realization is an experience, it's a conscious experience. But if we're going to understand how it happens, we have to look at the Kundalini system. Now, the Kundalini system gets passed around the universe. The Kundalini system did not originate in human beings, is what I'm saying here. Without going into this story too much, we can assume that it originated somewhere else in the universe. It gets handed around from life to life to life to life, planet to planet to planet, and it gets modified for a particular species. So the Kundalini system was presented to us when our higher minds became awake higher minds. And then our higher minds had to evolve it and mold it into a human shape. And then the higher minds had to grow it, because it didn't get presented. It's just the idea that gets presented, or the instructions, you could say. But then that species has to grow it. And that's why the Kundalini system grows over a long period of time. Humans don't start off with a Kundalini system, they have to grow it. And animals don't have a Kundalini system because they haven't, the souls have to evolve to a certain point to be able to handle the Kundalini system. And the Kundalini system is a system of emotional intelligence in humans. It's what allows humans to have emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is the ability to analyze one's own emotions, analyze emotions in others, to be able to have control over our own emotions, not the other way around, emotions controlling us. So it's about emotional management, emotional awareness, emotional intelligence. So it's the Kundalini system which allows that to happen in human beings. And it grows over many, many incarnations. And it grows from the root chakra upwards. Well, first when a higher mind becomes aware of its own reincarnation, and it becomes aware of the goal, the purpose of life, it can then start building its Kundalini system. First, it starts with the framework from root chakra to ninth chakra, and then it starts to actually build the central spinal channel from the root chakra upwards. And the first is the root chakra, and this is where emotional lesson learning starts with the root chakra. And as we know, that's safety, security, and survival. Those are the characteristics to do with the root chakra. I'm not going to go through energy psychology here because we've done that a lot in the chakras. But the Kundalini system grows, and the emotional lesson learning for each level or frequency of each chakra has to do with each chakra. The emotional lesson learning for each level has to do with each chakra as the Kundalini system grows up the spine. So when that Kundalini system is ready for awakening, once it's fully grown, 9 chakras in the Kundalini system, once the central spinal channel has grown all the way up to the 9th chakra, it can activate, it can awaken. And that allows the process of self-realization. That's the source then becoming self-realized. Any questions so far? So before I start going through the actual sections, I should mention something about ancient myths and ancient knowledge. And the Kundalini system has been known about for thousands of years. And quite often, in those times, things are depicted in a very different way than we do these days. These days, things are much more detailed and much more technical, you could say, scientific, but back then things were described in stories and poems and myths and legends and things like that. And the Kundalini system was first recorded in the Upanishads, The Upanishads are ancient Vedic texts from India, and it was in poem form originally. And the Kundalini system was depicted as a coiled serpent at the base of the spine, which lays dormant until ready, and when ready, it springs up the spine. But these days, I think we can talk about it in a slightly more technical way, or we can understand it better. And certainly if we want to bring it into science and biology, we have to understand it. So there's 3 sections of the Kundalini system. Section 1, Section 2. So Section 1 is called the chakras. That's this section here. Section 2 is called Universal Awareness Descent. I haven't put these labels on for some reason, but that's Section 2 there. This one here. And then Section 3 is a tiny little section there, and that is called the Migration of Identity. So let's talk through these sections as the Kundalini awakens.
It's a bit early. Would this be a good time to stop for a break, as you're just starting this?
If you like, yep, sure. Okay, let's stop for a couple of minutes. Sounds good. How are we doing? Looks like we're almost there.
So, yeah.
All right. So the Kundalini system, the different sections, and what happens in an awakening. And by the way, we're going to talk about the Kundalini phase of self-realization here. This is the Kundalini awakening phase, where all these energies are moving and the Kundalini system is awakening. After that, as you know, the phases of self-realization really start. But we're not going to talk about that because, first of all, we haven't got time in this course, and I think maybe that's going to be part of the PhD after the degree course. Or maybe it'll be part of the 3rd year degree course, I'm not sure. Right then, so Section 1, the chakras. So when a person is ready for a Kundalini awakening, it will activate. Now there is a process of activating it, and the crown chakra is involved, the solar plexus chakra is involved, the Kundalini bulb is involved, and the root chakra is involved. However, I don't think it's necessary or beneficial for us to really talk about that or understand that in any detail. And the reason is, I think, is for some reason, I think it's not a great idea to be putting that out, because it encourages people to go and awaken it manually. And this is where people are really damaging themselves when they're doing Kundalini yoga on themselves and awakening the Kundalini too early. And if they're not ready for it, then they can cause themselves some big problems. In fact, while I'm at it, we can just talk about that briefly. What I'm seeing quite a lot with people that are contacting me from social media with Kundalini issues is that when somebody does Kundalini yoga on themselves to awaken the Kundalini, and if they're not ready, they can damage it. And what I'm seeing is quite a lot of damage on this area here of the central spinal channel, and also quite a lot of damage in the Kundalini bulb here as well. A third one is that when a rupture happens, let's say the Kundalini system is only half grown and somebody goes and tries to awaken it manually, or goes to a practitioner and gets them to awaken it, because that can happen as well. And that's done through a particular type of energy healing called Shaktipat. Now, say the Kundalini system has only grown up to the solar plexus there, hasn't grown further, and somebody goes to get their Kundalini awakened. Well, it's going to come out of the Kundalini bulb, it's going to go up through the central spinal channel. It might get stuck with a blockage, but if it doesn't, when it gets to the point where it's stopped growing, it's going to have a rupture. It's going to explode inside the energy body, and it's got nowhere to go. And that's what we call a Kundalini rupture. And that can cause all sorts of problems: emotional turmoil, psychosis, terrible problems in the nervous system. And it can take years and years and years to heal, even decades sometimes, it seems. Now, we can help people in that situation, because you can heal this with energy healing. It does heal in time, but you can actually heal it with energy healing. And we've got a few people on our list our healing list at the moment that we're trying to help with these types of issues. Now, just something else quickly there. If somebody does awaken it too early and it hits the root chakra here, it's very likely that the blockage in the root chakra is going to stop it. But the problem is, if the person is not ready for a Kundalini awakening, that blockage is going to be too big in the root chakra, and the Kundalini is going to get stopped there, but it's going to cause terrible, terrible Kundalini symptoms. And that person can work on the blockage and remove it, but that's not going to help because there's too much karma in the system, which is burning, which is producing the emotional energy, which is blocking up the chakra. That's why if somebody is not ready for it, usually it means they've got too much karma in the system, or either the Kundalini system is not ready, not fully built, or they've got too much karma, and therefore the emotional energy blockages are going to keep getting blocked up, and so they're going to be stuck in very severe Kundalini symptoms for a long time. So that's what can happen, which is why we should encourage people to leave it alone. Don't mess with it. It will happen when it's ready. It will awaken when it's ready. Anyway, so let's go back to the Kundalini system awakening in a natural way. So what happens is that the Kundalini energy K1 is lying dormant in the Kundalini bulb down here. And that awakens. And then that starts going up the central spinal channel. Now, it's likely there's going to be some blockages in some of these chakras, but if the person's ready for this, then they're not going to be too severe, and the karma is going to be such low levels that it's not going to cause much problem, and it's going to run out very soon. And so then the K1 energy will be able to pass at some point. And it will carry on up the spinal column through the central spinal channel here. And this is where, and you guys know this already, but this is where you unblock each chakra from bottom to top, one by one, and let that K1 energy pass. So that's why it's called the chakras section. Now, when that K1 energy gets to the solar plexus chakra, it's going to activate K2. And K2 is going to start coming down from the 9th chakra down this path here. So let's just carry on with K1 up the spine to finish the section 1. But once K1 goes past solar plexus, that activates K2. When it gets to the heart chakra, K1, when it gets to the heart chakra, then that heart chakra starts to turn blue. This is where the electric blue color comes in of the heart. The frequency starts to change to unconditional love instead of lower mind love or ego love. And then K1 carries on up the central spinal channel, goes past. So once it goes past the throat, that's it for emotion chakras. No more emotion chakras after that, which means no more blockages. And then once that's happened, those chakras can never get blocked up again. Ever. Once that K1 is passed, no more chakra blockages, which is good news. So once it goes past the throat, it's very likely to zip past the brow chakra because that doesn't get blocked up. It can be open or closed, but it doesn't get blocked up with emotional energy. And in somebody who's ready for a Kundalini awakening, it's very rare that it's closed. So K1 zip past the brow chakra and then goes to the bindu here. This is the bindu. And then it waits outside the bindu. It's waiting. I'll come back to that in a second. So now let's go up to section 2, because section 2 has been activated at this point. And section 2 is the movement of energy K2 from the 9th chakra down to the crown chakra, which is right there. Crown chakra is there. The crown chakra is at the location of the pineal gland. The brow chakra is at the location of the pituitary gland in the brain, by the way. Let me just put the material body back on again in case you lost your bearings a little bit. Go. Let me take that off and put the lower mind on. Easier to see. There we go. Crown chakra's there. Brow chakra is there. Bindu is at the back of the head there. Better. So section 2. Section 2 is called Universal Light Descent. And that K2 energy is coming from the 9th chakra there, coming down to the crown chakra. It goes past the 8th chakra along the way. So what that is doing is it's opening up a channel from the source. The 9th chakra is the connection to the source of the universe. Now, Just going back to what I was saying earlier about the whole purpose of the Kundalini system is for the source to become self-realized, to know itself. And it has to do that in the physical universe of form. And part of self-realization is for the source to actually have some sort of impact in the physical world of form. And it does that through the ninth chakra. So this is the connection to the source. Stuff comes out of the ninth chakra from the source, and we call that the Akashic stream. Once that activates, then things start coming down from the ninth chakra, and we call that the Akashic stream. Now, just as a little side note here, when we're talking about Akasha or Akashic information, there's two types of Akashic information. There's the information which generates the whole of the universe. That's one type. Because the whole of the universe universe of form is being manifested constantly by this flow of information. That's what Akasha is. That's one type. The second type is the Akasha, which is generated into self-realized beings through the ninth chakra. And it's a different type of Akasha. It is being produced at the ninth chakra, and it goes into self-realized beings in the universe, of which there are an infinite amount, if you take into account infinite numbers of universes. That's another story. So that's what the purpose of the section 2 is. Things coming down from the ninth chakra into the system. And just to remind you as well, after Kundalini awakening, these are the things that come down. Golden energy, an unlimited supply of golden energy. Unconditional love coming from the source. Akashic information, including Akashic intuition. We've talked about that, haven't we, in the lesson on intuition. And Maya organ control. Now, we haven't talked much about the Maya organ. That is a thing that grows in the higher mind after the Kundalini awakening phase. We'll talk about that later on. So that's section 2 that opens up from that K2 energy moving southwards, opens up that section. So that's section 2 that opens up in the Kundalini awakening phase. Now section 3 and the movement of K3 is that little one there. Goes from the crown chakra to the Bindu. Now, if you remember, K1 was sitting there waiting at the Bindu, waiting to go into the Bindu. And what was it waiting for? It was waiting for K3 to arrive. Now, K3 is directly related to the migration of identity, because that's the whole purpose. We let go our identity in the false self. That identity in the lower mind that we thought we were all our lives, that falls apart through this process. And our true identity starts coming in, which is pure awareness or universal awareness. And that's a whole journey in itself, which I'm not going to talk about here because we're talking about the physiology. But this is the physiology that allows that to happen. That movement of K3 from the crown to the Bindu, that follows the complete destruction of the egoic identity framework or structure. So this is the stickiest part, actually, and that K3 energy can really get stuck here, and it can take quite a while. And there's exercises that we can give people to help it move backwards. But once that K3 energy has finished its journey here, it goes into the Bindu. It mixes together with K1 and it goes into the Bindu. And then it turns into K4. K4 then goes into the lower mind and starts transforming the lower mind. And that kicks off the process of self-realization itself, the phases of self-realization. 5 minutes, okay, great. So K4 really kicks off the phases of self-realization. And then that is the Kundalini phase over. All the energies have moved and opened up vessels in the Kundalini system. And now there is a channel from the source of the universe into a body, into a human system, or whatever conscious being we're talking about. Everywhere in the universe, people are becoming self-realized. So that's the purpose of the Kundalini system. Okay, so there's a few more things just to finish off with in the Kundalini system, just to mention a couple of things. First of all, bliss channels. Now, these are very well known. Whenever you Google Kundalini, you will get a picture of the central spinal channel, but also these two vessels called Ida and Pingala. And that is this classic double helix shape around the central spinal channel. This is almost the most famous thing about Kundalini, maybe after the coiled serpent thing. These are vessels, and these carry bliss. And bliss is a common symptom of a Kundalini awake. And not everybody feels the bliss. It depends on people's individual process. But it can be common. And that these bliss channels get activated and bliss moves upwards and then into the Bindu. And then from there into the lower mind and brain, you could say. And then into our conscious awareness filter for conscious processing, which I'll be talking about next week. So that's the bliss channels. Also, there is a vessel here that you might have noticed, this blue vessel here. Not hugely important to really know about, but it's there. And this is on other, I've seen this actually on other Kundalini drawings as well. I call it the Kundalini circuit because it makes a circuit out of the Kundalini system. It's actually that can actually go round and round like that. And what happens there is that unlimited golden energy comes down from the ninth chakra. That's one thing that comes down from the ninth chakra after Kundalini awakening. We start getting all our golden energy from the ninth chakra instead of the outside through the chakras. This time it just comes. Now it comes straight down from the ninth chakra with an unlimited supply. That goes into the Kundalini system and then circulates around this circuit, basically. And then from there, it goes into the energy body, into the chakra manifold. So there's a valve there into the energy body circulations. Okay, I think that's about it for the Kundalini system. Any questions? All right then, so let's now move on to the karmic system. Now this is going to be a little bit different because I haven't really got anything drawn on the 3D model for the karmic system. So we're going to go to a PowerPoint in a second to show you something. But first of all, I want to show you where it is, the karmic system. So you see the energy body outline here in blue. That's the energy body's skin. We'll just put the material body back on again. You can see that the energy body extends. The energy body framework extends a good 10 centimeters outside the material body. So that is the skin, the outside layer of the energy body is a solid, not solid, but it's a skin. It doesn't let things in and out. That's why the chakra openings are holes to the outside. Now it's on that skin where karma is stored. Karma emotion is stored in the outside layers of the energy body. I'm going to show you another picture now so that we can actually see in a bit more detail. But before I do that, quickly, just remind you where the Bindu is, at the back of the head. All karma emotion is drawn through the Bindu. Now we know this, don't we? Because we've talked about the karma emotion engine with the lower mind, where it draws in past life karmas through the Bindu. Remember that? Well, all those karmas are held in the outside layers of the energy body and they get drawn through the Bindu there into the lower mind for processing. So now I'm going to go to this PowerPoint to show you a bit more detail. So this is actually going to be part of a future lesson on karma, but as we're talking about anatomy, I'm going to show you some of these drawings, and then we will go over this again. So we've talked about the karmic personality spectrum, haven't we? The karmic personality spectrum is the spectrum in the energy body where the actual karma emotion is held. Hold on, I'm just trying to decide how much to show you, how much time we got. Okay, so if we look at the outside layers of the energy body, and you might have seen this slide before. There we go. You might have seen this slide before, but if we look at the outside layers of the energy body, you will see lots and lots of little cells like this. These are karmic cells. And these splodges that you can see are personality traits. So when you look at somebody's energy body, or when you're looking for the karma, you will see it in splodges, and these are actual characteristics. That one there is a negative characteristic. And there is a positive one there. Because the karma, the negative karma, is those darker colours, and the positive karma is in the red colours, in the different shades of red. So we've done this before, I know, in the karma lesson. Now, to remind you again about another subject, energy psychology, before I show you the map of the karma emotion, just to remind you about emotion chakras and energy psychology. So each chakra regulates a different set of characteristics in the personality. We know this, don't we? Emotion regulating chakras. Now, we can also say then that different karmas can be classified as the chakras, because it's the karma that is creating the characteristic in the first place. So there can be positive and negative karmas to do with each of those sets of characteristics. So the throat chakra can have positive and negative karmas. Or you could say, rather, we could say that if we have a negative karma, we can classify it as one of the chakras. It's to do with those characteristics in the personality. And these different karmas are actually held at different places on the energy body. So here's the energy body. Root chakra karmas are actually held around the top of the head area, around the bindu. And as we move further away from the bindu, you get the different emotion chakras. So the root chakras, it's almost a little bit opposite to the direction of the chakras in the spine, because the root chakra starts around the bindu. The sacral chakra karmas then in a layer further out from the bindu. Solar plexus chakra karmas even further out. And then heart chakra, again, even further out. And then throat chakra is at the extremities. So in energy healing, in network healers, one of the first things that we do is try to assess somebody's karma levels. And when we do that, we need to give it a chakra classification, and we need to give it then the location. Because if we want to remove somebody's karma, we need to know where it is on the energy body. But we'll go over this in more detail in the karma lesson, don't worry. We're just doing the karmic system because it's part of anatomy. Now, it doesn't actually look like that, by the way. When you look at it, it looks more like this, because it doesn't have those colours. You know, we're just putting those colours on so that we can classify the chakras. When you look at it, the colours are actually blacks and reds, or dark, you know, black, grey, brown, and different shades of red. So it actually looks a bit more like that when you actually look at it. In fact, more like that, because it doesn't have those separations to it. And actually, it's a little bit more like that, because there is a blue covering. There's a blue covering to the skin of the energy body. So you have to look quite closely to see that patchwork of karma across the energy body. Okay, any questions about the karmic system? Sorry, before I say that, one more thing about the karmic system here, and that is that these little crisscrossy grid patterns, they are actually there on the karmic, we call that the karmic grid. And those are vessels which take the karma to the bindu, because all these little cells on the surface of the energy body are holding karma emotion. And then they get transferred to the bindu through these vessels, goes to the back of the head, and then goes through into the lower mind for processing. And then we're into the karma emotion engine. So this is past life karma, which is on the energy body skin. Okay, there we go, I think. Okay, any questions about karma or about anything else? To be honest, I think we're pretty much there for the lesson. Yes, I do, yeah. And yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's a very important thing to know about the transition between animals and humans, is that a soul which is transitioning from an animal to a human body is going to have the karma related to whatever experiences it's had. Absolutely. And yes, this is a massive problem that we're seeing right now with the cruelty to animals that is happening in whatever. The amount of cruelty to animals that's happening is creating huge amounts of heavy karma, heavy negative karma in those animals, especially around fear, but also going to be around anger and hatred probably, but especially fear. And then, yes, those animals may incarnate into a human system, and they're starting their human journey with chock full of horrible negative karma. So yeah, that's a big problem, and it's contributing to the levels of fear and negative emotions that we have in humanity currently. And to the other point you mentioned, you're absolutely right that an animal that has been as part of a human family and pampered or treated nicely is going to have a lot less negative karma. They're going to have a lot more positive karma. So yes, it's very important to treat animals kindly and well. And I think that the more integration into humanity for animals, the better, because it sets them up for the human journey, which is why having pets or keeping animals is a great thing to do, because it makes that transition easier. Imagine a dog, and some dogs can incarnate into humans, some species of dogs can incarnate into humans. And imagine that a dog has been taken under somebody's wing and from incarnation into incarnation and kept as part of a human soul group, because that happens. That dog, or whatever animal, whether it was a horse or a dog, and will actually, they'll have that karmic personality spectrum already ingrained into humanity, and then the transition into a human body will be so much easier than otherwise. So I think it's it's a very important point to mention. Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, first of all, the distances have to do with the anatomy that it's all linked up with. So I have put them roughly at the distances that they are, because I'm trying to put the chakras in the right place in the material body, and they will link up with the material body in some way as well in terms of the anatomy. To the second part, I don't really know, to be honest, but my guess is that it doesn't no, I'm pretty sure actually it doesn't correspond to actual time. So it's not going to correspond to how long it takes to learn those lessons. But it's an interesting point, and there's probably a lot more that we can learn about that. But I think there's probably no direct correlation between the length of the section and the time spent. I don't think so. But I'm not, there's lots, I've got a feeling there's lots more to to unpack about that. Yes, so the meridian system is a one-way system because it has one purpose. It's to get energy from A to B, and the flow is one directional, and then the energy comes back to the chakras through another route. And it's very similar to arteries and veins, where arteries will direct the blood from the heart and lungs to the body, and it's delivering nutrients, and then it comes back through the veins back to the heart and lungs. So it has to go one way because it's delivering something. That's the same with the meridian system. It's delivering separated frequencies to the cells of the body and then back again. So it has to be one way. Now the free flow system is different because it's allowing energy to go anywhere it needs to go in the body. An analogy would be white blood cells in the blood. It's a slightly obscure analogy, but white blood cells are part of the immune system in the material body, but white blood cells can go anywhere around the body, because white blood cells need to go and fight infection here. They need to go and destroy bacteria over here. They need to go wherever they need to go, basically. And the free flow system is a bit more like that. It's a system of vessels where healing energy, as an example, can go to your wrist to do some healing, or it can go over to your ankle, or it can just move anywhere it needs to go, basically. So it can go anywhere. So that's why it's bi-directional, basically. I think, well, both. But yes, I think there is a reason why. There's a reason we can kind of understand why. And I think that the reason has to do with how karmas evolved through millions of years of evolution. The very first karmas to evolve were basic karmas, very simple karmas, and to do with, you know, basic survival, basically. And that has to do with root chakra characteristics. But if you think about where the karma is coming from, it's coming through into the bindu. So I think that what's happened there through evolution is that the first karmas to evolve settled the closest place to the bindu. And because you could think about, you know, very small animals with only those survival instincts, you know, evolution's doesn't really have it's not thinking about a plan, it's just evolving. So those karmas evolved to just be settled around the bindu because it was the closest place to the bindu to be drawn in for processing. But then as karmas started to evolve, as emotions started to evolve as well, the sacral chakra or emotions evolved, and then the solar plexus evolved, and then very gradually the higher chakras evolved afterwards in a long line of evolution. So you can see how the settling of the karma in the energy body followed that sort of route until, you know, the higher chakras really are at the extremities, basically. So it's something to do with that. I think the positioning follows the evolution of the emotions and chakras, but starting at the bindu. Yes, exactly. So that's part of what we teach in this course when it comes to all the different types of healing. So when we start with intention healing, which is the lower mind creating healing energy with the lower mind guna, the more focus, and we're talking about conscious healing here, energy healing, the more knowledge that the lower mind has, the better the programming goes in the guna, and therefore the programming on the healing energy. So the more focused that intention is with, whether it's visualizations, mantras, whatever, just knowledge about what it's actually going in to do or where it needs to be directed, the better the healing. 100%, yeah. But that doesn't just stop at the lower mind, actually, and we'll talk about that more in the more advanced lessons on energy healing. But it's the same all the way down the line. The more knowledge the healer has, the more efficient the healing becomes, for sure. You can produce generalized healing energy just by goodwill intention, and prayer and stuff like that forms a base level of healing energy. But then you can layer much higher layers of programming on it to increase the efficiency, which is exactly what we're trying to do. Yeah, and it's going to be part of our research project as well, is to try and show that the information or the knowledge of the healer has a massive impact on the actual efficiency of the healing itself, which I don't think I can't find any research that has been done on showing that. Okay, there we go then. Anything else? Any other questions or comments? That is what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring all the different layers together, yeah. And there are loads of different, practices and therapies out there that are wonderful, but yes, just like you say, are very targeted to a specific thing. And yeah, what we're trying to do in Network Healers is to bring all of the layers together, because there's no point. Well, I mean, it's much less effective if you only apply energy healing and they're not doing self-healing, and they're not doing nutrition and exercise, and they're not doing psychological work, and they're not meditating for the spiritual layers. So you've got to chuck everything together at it for the best results. 100%. Well, and there we go. Well, should we call it a day if we're done for today?